Okay, so we're going to look at a few different things. The first is complex IOR. So what that can do is it's a quick way to kind of get at more accurate kind of metal behavior. So the way you do that is you create standard surface. There we go. Then we turn metal to 1, go to the color node, click on the create link, and we're looking for complex IOR. And then we have some presets, which are super handy. We're going to go with gold. And then we go back here. Oh, I thought I named this gold surface. Turn the roughness down, and then we'll drag it on our ball here. And as we mentioned in class, one thing to think about with metals in general is they're basically a mirror. So they're showing like the environment around the object. So, having variation in the light source itself, putting a texture in the light source itself goes a long way to help sell this object. And having like some fall off in the lighting, bouncing the light around helps make it look a little more realistic. Okay, so now we're going to look at render layers, and to get there, it's this little layered icon. And render layers are pretty neat. What they let you do is assign overrides to everything in your scene. So you can basically have another version of your scene with different attributes. You could have another version where all the materials are different, or different things are visible. Different render settings, I use that a lot. For example, I'll have my main render be on the GPU, but sometimes there's passes that won't render on the GPU, so I'll make another version, another render layer where I'll turn all the lights off just to get like something like a cryptomat pass. All right, so to set up a render layer, maybe we'll do one where, I don't know, everything's white, let's say, right? Just a clean white pass. We click on this. So now we got a new layer. Let's call this white matte. Okay, and then what we do is everything we want to have not change, we could put in its own group. So let's see, we don't want to change the light, let's say. So we're going to make, create a collection. And we'll put this over here so we can see it. We'll add the light. And then everything we do want to change, we're going to put in a new collection, create collection. Call this geo. Right. And in my geo, I want my set and my geometry. Now, anything you want to change, you can, right? So if I wanted to have another version of the scene where, let's say, I turned everything off, I could control drag the visibility in here, and it'll create an override for visibility. In this case, what I'm looking for is a material override. So to do that, I right-click on this. I'm sorry, a shader override. Let's create a shader override, and we'll grab our white matte. I guess it's called white bounce. Drag it in there. Save. Okay, so the little eyeball here means we're on the main render layer, the master layer. If we want to see what's going on in another layer, we move the visibility over to there. And now we can see that it's all white, right? It's the same scene, but everything's been assigned a white, right? We can also create another. And in this layer, we're going to change what was this marble material to gold, right? I'll call it gold, render layer, rename this white mat. Render layer, once again, add the set and the light, because we don't want to change those. And then we'll create another collection. It'll be geo. And then this time we're going to create material override. Material override, grab the shading group, gold, enter. Let's see what's happened. It did everything. This. Oh, I think it worked actually. Okay, so we're going to add our set, our light. Okay. There we go. Sometimes you got to click around to get it to update. Okay, so let's render this out. So, we've been doing this thing, scene underscore render layer, and now this render layer makes sense, right? Like, it's going to make a scene folder, and then it's going to store our different layers in a folder, right? And then each file name, we want it to be specific to where it came from. When we look at it in After Effects, you're like, oh, that's from the gold layer, or that's from the white layer. All of this is this idea of chain of custody that you could kind of go back in time. So let's render out a frame. JOVs, we'll need one frame. We don't need perspective. Batch render. Okay, so render sequence, shot cam, and now we're going to turn on all enabled layers. If we want to see which ones are enabled, it's these, and we can turn them on and off if we like. So we're going to do all three. And then we hit go. And while that's cooking, we'll go over to After Effects. We have our project. It's set up with 32-bit. We have our two ASIS color management layers. So let's import. So I'm double clicking over here. And see, what's nice is I know where to look, right? It's named after scene. And then there's a folder for each render layer. So let's grab them, and then the render layer tells us which render layer it is and what scene. So we kind of know what we're dealing with in After Effects. Right, and it's kind of fun as we can, have one layer be a matte for another. All right. Or, we could just look at the clean white layer. Oops. And we have that one too. All right.